Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we'll create the one-to-many relationship between the chefs and recipes table. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the entity relationship diagram that we have so far. We see that we have one field missing in the recipes table, which is the chef ID. The chef ID, which is the foreign key in the recipes table, will point to the chef, the primary key of a chef who basically created the recipe. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this chef ID and add it to the recipes table. So how do we do that? Anytime we have to make an update to our tables, we generate a migration. So Rails generate migration, and we're going to add chef ID to recipes. Okay, so that created a migration file right here. So I will open it. So here we're going to add column. The first argument would be the name of the table that you're making this change to. So recipes table. Second is the field you want to add. So chef ID. And the third is the type, so integer. All right, so let's go ahead and make this change. So rake space db colon migrate. Okay, so it added this column to the recipes table. Great. Now we can go ahead and create our association. So let's look at our diagram again. You see that for chef model, we're going to have has many recipes, and recipes belongs to chef. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So in the chef model, on the top, has many space colon recipes, and then in the recipe model, belongs to chef. Now remember, chef singular because chef is the one part of the one-to-many, and recipes is the many part, so this one, recipes, would be plural. Okay, and that's Rails convention. All right. Okay, so now that our association is created, we can it makes a few methods available to us. Let's go ahead and jump into Rails console and test out the association. Okay, so first thing I want to do is grab the first chef. So chef, and that's equals chef.first. Okay, let's do something like chef.recipes. Okay, we seem to have a problem. Okay, I'm not sure if we have any chefs. So let's try that. Okay, so that's the problem. We don't have any chefs. Do we have any recipes? Okay, we don't have any recipes either. So let's go ahead and create a recipe. Or actually, first let's create a chef. So chef.create. Chef name, we'll call him Bob. Email, bob@example.com. Okay, so we have a chef. Now, we can create a recipe by doing something like this, recipe.new. However, now that we have the association between chef and recipe, we can actually we can create recipe like this. So recipe equals chef.recipes.build or chef.recipes.create. It makes the association makes all of these methods available to us. So let's do that. Chef.recipes.build, and we'll give it a name. I believe that's one of the fields. We'll call it vegetable saute, and then summary, best vegetable dish ever. Description, add vegetables, add oil, cook for 20 minutes. Okay. Now, this is not only going to create this recipe, but it should automatically assign the chef ID to this row when it gets created, right? So this recipe actually will have a chef ID of 1 since we assigned chef as Bob. So let's see if that happens. See, chef ID 1. Now if I go recipe.all, okay, so why did it show empty? Why is it still empty? It's because .build, created this recipe object in memory, okay? It did not impact or hit the database as yet. For it to hit the database, we have to do recipe.save. Okay, now if you had done, actually let's build another recipe. Recipe equals chef.recipes.create. If we use create, then this will actually impact the database right away. Potato salad, summary, potato salad ever, description, add mayo, add potatoes, add, I don't know, onions. Okay, now you see this one hit the database right away. We don't have to do save because we use create. Okay, so if I go recipe.all now, you'll see 2 recipes. Now a couple of other methods that the association provides for us. If we do recipe, which is potato salad, so recipe.chef, and it gives you the chef name. So recipe.chef.chef name, and we see that it's Bob. Okay, great. Now that we have our association set up, we have to make an update to our models and our test. Recipes, recipe tests and recipe model. So I'm going to hop out of the console. Okay. So if I go to my recipe test, now here I have a setup. When I'm setting it up, I'm doing recipe.new, right? But now, every time a recipe is going to be created, it's going to be created by a user, a chef. So I'm going to go ahead and create a chef object, and then chef.new, chef name, I'll give it Bob, and then email bob@example.com. Okay, now the recipe object I want to use is no longer recipe.new because I want Bob's ID, chef ID, to be associated with the recipe, right? So based on what we used in the console, we can do something like this. Chef dot recipes dot build. Now when we do this, we don't need to provide the chef ID because that's automatically going to be provided from here. But here we have a bit of a problem, and we'll know what the problem is very soon. So let me go ahead and save this for now. And if another test I want to do, add here is anytime I want a recipe to be created, I want to ensure that there's a chef ID associated with it, because we always want a chef to create a recipe because it's a one-to-many relationship. A recipe cannot exist without a creator, basically. So let's go ahead and add that. So chef ID should be present. Okay, so here recipe.chefid, I'm going to set it to nil, and then assert not. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this test. Okay, we have one failure. Chef ID should be present. Chef ID should be present. Now, let's go ahead and add this to our model. Okay, because right now it's setting to nil, and then it's still accepting it because the model isn't enforcing the requirement that the chef ID should be present in the recipe. So it belongs to chef, and validates. Here it's going to be chef ID presence true. All right, so now this model is enforcing that chef ID is present anytime a recipe is created. Okay, okay, so now we have a different failure. Now it's saying the recipe should be valid. This is this test. So why is this invalid? It's because we are in our model, we are saying now that chef ID must be present. But here, when we create the chef object, we're saying chef.new. When we're doing this, we are basically creating an in-memory chef object which is not in the database, which means it does not have a primary key of chef ID yet. So since it's not hitting the database, when it's creating the recipe, it doesn't have the chef ID present. Okay, so this recipe object does not have the chef ID present because the chef object is in memory. It hasn't hit the database, so it doesn't have the primary key. So in order to make this pass, we have to change this new to create. Okay, now when we create this, it's going to hit the database. However, one thing we'd like to, if you noticed, is that we already have a bob@example.com. Technically, this should not let you create it, right? Because bob@example.com already exists as an email, and we enforce email uniqueness in our chef model. Why is this still going to work? Let's try it out first. Okay, it worked. Now, why did it work? It worked because it's creating this chef object and it's hitting this database in a sandbox. Okay, it's technically not hitting the database. It's creating a sandbox, which is almost like a virtual table, running this test, and then at the end of it, it just gets rid of it. And we can test that out if we go to Rails console. And if we do, if we do chef.all, we see that there's still just Bob. Bob is still there that we created before. Now, if I try to do this, chef equals chef.create chef name John, but if I use email bob@example.com, this is going to fail. It's not going to let us create this. Let's try it out. See, it says rollback transaction because bob@example.com already exists, right? Now, how do you find that out? How do you see this? Now, Rails provides a very helpful method that's called errors. If you go chef.errors, you'll see message saying has already been taken. Now you can do it a little better by going errors.any. This should return true. Now, if you want to display this message better, you can go chef.errors.full_messages. This is another method that Rails provides for you. Then if you hit return, it says email has already been taken. Right, so during our test, we were able to create this and virtually hit a virtual database, basically, because we're doing this in a sandbox, okay? It creates it, rolls it back. We don't have to worry about it hitting the database for our tests. But if you tried to do it to the actual database, then you see that you cannot do this, right? Okay, so now we've gone a good amount of time, and I think it's time to save our work. So I'm going to exit out of the console. And then how do we save our work? If we go git status, we see that we added the models, chef recipe models. Actually, we modified the chef and recipe models, but we created that association, and we also created all these tests. So I'm going to add all of them. So you type in git add space -a, hit return. So now all the changes, modifications, and additions are staged, ready to be committed. So git commit -m and say create chefs and recipes association and tests. And hit return. Okay. So now if I go git status again, all right, on branch master, your branch is ahead of origin master by 5 commits. Basically, we haven't done a commit to our GitHub repository in a while, okay? So it's time we pushed our code to the repository and saved it there also. So to do that, go ahead and type in git push origin master. So git space push space origin space master. And if you had followed the setup steps for GitHub and when we had added SSH keys and everything, this should work perfectly. And hit return. All right, all done. I'll see you in the next lesson.